We start in the American League West, and we're taking a look at the Anaheim Angels. Really strong top three with Darren Erstad, Tim Salmon, and Troy Gloss. Pretty good depth with the 4, 5, 6. The back three is gonna break up a couple rallies, but overall, pretty strong lineup. On the bump, nice ace option with Jared Washburn. The other two guys, not too much to write home about. And the bullpen's just about average, maybe even a touch below without an elite arm. So overall, a decent team, might be in the mix. Next stop is in Houston for the Astros, and this is one of the best offenses in baseball, no doubt about it. Two elite options here with Jeff Bagwell, Moises Alou, surrounded by nearly elite with Hidalgo right on top. Just depth throughout the lineup. They are an absolute powerhouse that are going to have to mash their way to a lot of wins because this pitching is the absolute opposite. It is the worst of the worst. We have a couple of 50s in this rotation. It's just there's no hope here. Over to Oakland for the Athletics. You can see one of the best bats in baseball with Jason Giambi. Surrounding him with some pretty good talent, above average at least. Chavez and Tejada are nice backups there for Giambi. Pretty long lineup, so this Oakland Athletic team should be able to drive in some runs. And it pairs very nicely with a good pitching staff. Barry Zito, one of the best in the game. Jason Isringhausen, nice strong closer. And Jim Messier coming from the pen doesn't hurt either. So overall, pretty good team here in Oakland. Our next stop is up in the Pacific Northwest. We take a look at the Seattle Mariners. Again, two elite bats in the middle of the lineup in A-Rod and Edgar Martinez. Ichiro is a great leadoff guy. There's length here with Olerud and Buhner. It's just a good, strong lineup with a lot of really nice pieces. Take a look at the pitching. It's pretty good indeed. Seeley and Abbott is a nice 1-2. A very good bullpen headlined by Arthur Rhodes and Kazuhiro Sasaki. So Seattle should definitely be in the thick of things for October. And we wrap up the American League West with the Texas Rangers. One of the better hitting lineups here. We have Ivan Rodriguez anchoring the three, but it's got depth with Palmeiro, Caminiti, Gabe Kapler. Even way at the bottom, Luis Alicea as a 73 is a nice pop for the 9-hitter. Don't see that too often. Over to the pitching, Rick Helling, Kenny Rogers, and Doug Davis. That's an okay 1, 2, 3. The bullpen leaves a little bit to be desired. No lights out guy coming from the pen, so we could see some late leads slip away here. We start our rundown at the American League Central in Cleveland with the Indians, one of the best lineups in baseball, just so deep. We go into the 80s for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys with a couple of others flirting outside. No weak spots in this lineup. They are going to drive in a lot of runs. Pitching staff could be better, especially the starting rotation. Really no ace to turn to there. The bullpen is pretty good, though. They have no real trouble spots in the pen, and Bob Wickman is a good above-average closer. But the Indians are not alone in the Central. They'll have to contend with the White Sox, who have a pretty good lineup of their own. Most of these guys are all in at least the high 70s, a couple of 80s. We do have Frank Thomas, who is a 92 overall. So this lineup is definitely going to be able to keep up with the Indians. As far as the pitching goes, these teams look pretty similar. The White Sox bullpen is actually even slightly better. Keith Folk, one of the best closers in the game. Bob Howery and Kelly Wunsch is a great 1-2 out of the pen, so it should be a good race between these two teams for the division. One team that will likely not be competing for the American League Central crown are the Detroit Tigers. They rank in the bottom half in the American League in batting. Take a look, really no elite bats here. They are pretty deep, so we'll see how far that gets them, but overall the offense is not a huge threat. On the mound, the starting staff is pretty atrocious. Really some ugly names there, and the bullpen is just as bad, if not even worse, so it'll be curious to see how much this staff holds them back. But moving on to the Kansas City Royals, not a bad offense at all. You look at this top 7, all competitive bats, a couple of nice ones there in Sweeney and Dye right in the middle. Does tail off in the back end and it affects their ratings negatively, but overall pretty good offense. The pitching staff, again, pretty good. Jose Rosado is a decent ace. I would like to see a little more depth in the starting rotation. And the bullpen's all right. They do lack that one super elite guy coming out of the pen, so they should be competitive. And the last team on the list for the Central are the Minnesota Twins. Really rough lineup here. They lack depth, they lack elite star talent. There's just not a lot here that gets you excited as a Twins fan. And unfortunately, it just gets worse on the pitching side. 2 60s starters, just not going to work out too well for Minnesota. Can't see this one being a very promising year for the Twins fans. And that brings us to our final division in the American League. It's the American League East. We take a look at Baltimore. Baltimore, pretty deep lineup. Trinidad Hubbard centers it, but Brady Anderson is not a bad leadoff option. Bell, Ripken, Conine, and Mora fills out what should be a competitive offense. On the bump, doesn't look too bad, about average. Mike Mussina is not a bad ace, just missing that elite guy out of the pen to kill the late inning rallies. Those are so important in these games. The next stop on our tour of the American League East is the Boston Red Sox. A lineup that leaves you wanting more, certainly. Nomar is a nice piece, but he only has 1 year left until he retires, so they'll have to fill his shoes. Back of the lineup is really trash. A lot of rallies are going to get killed by Darren Lewis and Mike Lansing. But on the bump, the one, the only Pedro Martinez, nearly a game-breaking card here. He is going to dominate. The bullpen is excellent. This is one of the best pitching staffs in the American League. We'll see how far it'll take them. And if you're talking Red Sox, you know the Yankees can't be far behind. The Yankees have a about average offense, some nice pieces. The top 5 is really strong, should be able to put a lot of runs together. Unfortunately, it does tail off toward the back. But this offense should be competitive. It's really on the mound where they excel, and especially in the bullpen. Of course, Mariano Rivera is one of the best in the game. Jeff Nelson as a setup guy, you very rarely see setup guys that high. And then even Ramiro Mendoza should be able to contribute a lot. So this team is very dangerous with the lead. And we move to Tampa. Oh boy, Tampa. Might be the only team in the entire league without at least an 80 on their offense. They are just going to be non-competitive, just flat out. The pitching just seals the deal. I mean, look at this bullpen. Just nowhere to go in a time of need, and Tampa we could just give them the first pick already. And we end our American League preview north of the border in Toronto. Take a look at this Blue Jays lineup. Pretty good, and then you add in the best hitter in the game, Carlos Delgado, and it gets boosted up to very good. Not quite with the likes of Houston or Cleveland, but should definitely be competitive. And on the mound, David Wells, good, not great, but certainly better than what a lot of other teams throw out as their ace. And down at the end, Billy Koch should be able to lock down a lot of these wins. They are going to need an extra bullpen arm to make any noise, but a good solid team. So we take one last look at the American League. Cleveland, the White Sox, and Seattle, your front runners. Boston, a fantastic pitching staff. Houston with a great offense. And Tampa Bay, happy to be here.